From Hairenik Media Studios, good evening. I'm your guest host, Ani Zargarian, bringing you this week's top stories impacting Armenia and Armenians. And tonight, we cover significant local news, as well as developments in Armenia, the broader region, and the Middle East. We begin our newscast from the nation's capital, where AYF youth of the ARF Washington, D.C. Ani chapter, along with community members, gathered outside the Azerbaijani embassy to protest on the 37th anniversary of the Sumgait massacres and the pogroms in Baku, Kirovabad, and Maraga. Protesters demanded international action to hold Azerbaijan accountable for its ethnic cleansing of Artsakh, along with the release of the Armenian prisoners of war. The event also drew attention to Azerbaijan's complete impunity on the international stage as its systemic destruction of Armenian churches and cultural monuments in Artsakh continues unabated, with little response from global institutions. Protesters called on U.S. policymakers to take decisive action by sanctioning the Azerbaijani regime, halting all U.S. military aid to Baku, and demanding the immediate release of Armenian prisoners. They further urged the U.S. and international organizations to recognize and enforce the fundamental right of return for Artsakh Armenians, ensuring their safety through international guarantees. Member of the AYF Ani chapter and chair of the ANC DC, Matt Gerardi, highlighted Artsakh's enduring spirit, stating that the people of Artsakh, strong and resolute, are not yet confined to the pages of history books, and it is our obligation to stand in solidarity with them now and forever. Azerbaijan's pogroms of the past are not just historical events. They are part of a continuous campaign of ethnic cleansing, stated Alex Galitsky, policy director of the Armenian National Committee of America, who emphasized the importance of resilience. Today, as we mourn the genocidal blockade and forced displacement of Artsakh's Armenians, the torture of Armenian prisoners, and the destruction of our heritage, we must remember that we in the diaspora do not have the luxury to despair. Our duty is to resist, to fight back, and to demand justice, including the right of Artsakh Armenians to return to their homes in safety and dignity, Galitsky added. We remain in Washington, D.C., where the Armenian National Committee of America has announced that longtime Armenian-American activist and grassroots leader George Aghjayan will serve as its new national chairman, continuing the organization's mission to advance foreign policy priorities of special concern to Armenian and allied Americans. I am deeply honored to take on this role at such a critical time for the Armenian nation, said Aghjayan. Our work is more vital than ever as we fight to secure justice for Artsakh's displaced Armenians, hold Azerbaijan accountable for its crimes, and ensure the long-term security and viability of Armenia. The ANCA has always been the most effective voice for Armenian Americans in U.S. policy and politics, and I look forward to working with our local chapters, grassroots advocates, and dedicated leadership team to expand our influence and advance our common cause. Aghjayan succeeds Rafi Hamparian, who has led the ANCA with dedication and strategic vision. Continuing with high-touch news, Armenian Americans and allies from across the U.S. will be on Capitol Hill April 1 to 2nd to lobby Congress and attend the annual Armenian Genocide Remembrance on Capitol Hill. The Advocacy Days are organized by the ANCA Eastern and Western regions as communities nationwide gear up for a month-long series of programs and activities demanding that Turkey and Azerbaijan be held accountable for the Armenian genocide of 1915 to 1923 and the Artsakh genocide of 2023. The Aram Manukyan Institute for Strategic Planning, a think tank developing plans and working towards a prosperous and just society for Armenia, Artsakh, and the diaspora, published its second policy recommendation series on the right of return of the Armenians of Artsakh, authored by Yeria Tashtian, Narek Seferian, Thomas Becker, and Salma Wahidi. Combining perspectives from Armenian and international experts in political science and human rights law, the paper examines the ethnic cleansing of Armenians from Artsakh by Azerbaijan and offers recommendations for the U.S. government to support the right of return, including advocating for the preservation of Armenian cultural sites and holding Azeri officials accountable for war crimes. Now in the West Coast, at a meeting at the ARF Western Region Central Committee headquarters in Glendale, representatives of the Social Democratic Hunchakyan Party, Armenian Revolutionary Federation, and the Armenian Democratic Liberal Party discussed the current situation and challenges facing Armenia and the people of Artsakh, and the national challenges confronting the Armenian community. Emphasis was placed on the recognition and reparations of the Armenian genocide, with increased momentum securing the right of the Armenians of Artsakh to return to their homeland, the release of the Artsakh leadership and other political prisoners held in Baku, and standing firm in the defense of our independent homeland with all our strength and focused effort. It was decided to revitalize with united efforts the communal structure for the commemoration of the April genocide remembrance in the tradition established in previous years, and to participate actively in the upcoming April memorials. The three parties called for unity around our national organizations, to remain steadfast in our national demands, values, and rights, and to contribute to the security and well-being of the nation. In other news from the West Coast, the Armenian Genocide Martyrs Monument in Montebello is now a California State Historical Monument. During a special ceremony attended by state and local officials, as well as Armenian community organizations, California State Senator Bob Archuleta announced that the State Historical Resources Commission unanimously voted to officially designate the monument as California's state historical landmark. In his remarks, Archuleta said, "The Martyrs Monument is a testament that serves us well to remind us all to continue working for the 100,000 Armenians displaced from their traditional lands in Artsakh in 2023. We've not forgotten." ARF Western U.S. member Armen Hovhannisyan noted that evil has flourished the last 5 years as Azerbaijan continues to do with Artsakh what Ottoman Turkey tried to accomplish more than 100 years ago in Western Armenia. And now, for news from the homeland, we'll have our correspondent Nare Navasartyan join us with the latest developments. Hello, Nare.
Hi, Annie.
Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has signed a decree to revise the national security strategy, and he has also announced the need for a referendum to adopt a new constitution for Armenia. Please tell us more about this.
So the new decree to revise the national security strategy has sparked a widespread debate among the opposition as well as among the people, because the key provisions that will be removed, they were the ones defining Armenia's geopolitical stance. For example, Armenia standing by the international recognition of Artsakh's right to self-determination, acknowledgement of the Armenian genocide, and the strategy of countering threats coming from Baku and Ankara. This revised strategy is aimed at fostering good neighborly relations with Turkey and Azerbaijan, and critics warn that this can come at the cost of Armenia's historical and national priorities. The same thing can be said about this new constitution that Pashinyan says is based on his concept of real Armenia. So this comes amid Azerbaijan's demands for constitutional changes, as we know that Armenia's constitution does make a reference to Artsakh's right to self-determination. So the Pashinyan's vision outlines his outlines include only the international recognition of Armenia by itself, even though Baku doesn't recognize the Armenia's right to political freedom and just keeps stifling and occupying Armenian lands. So this is very concerning because this is negotiations under threat, which is illegal under international law. And President Aliyev is constantly threatening that he will not sign a peace treaty with Armenia unless the country changes its constitution. Aliyev claims that this current document contains territorial demands from Azerbaijan. But as we know, the right to self-determination is independent of the states' rights to their international recognized territories. The Minister of Justice, Serpuhi Galyan, has said that the development of the text of the new constitution is underway and that the text of the draft must be ready before the 2026 elections, after which a decision will be made regarding a referendum. Galyan denied that these changes will be held because of Aliyev's demands, arguing that they have been planned since 2018. She also noted that the powers of the president will be discussed, but the system of administration of Armenia will remain the same. Commenting on Pashinyan's statement and the vision, Artur Khachaturian, member of the ARF and the parliament member from Hayastan Dashing, reminded at the Yarabulur military pantheon that last summer Hikmet Ajiyev, the assistant to the president of Azerbaijan, announced that the people of Armenia should make this change, this constitutional change. And now Baku has demanded it, and Nikol Pashinyan is complying. So it is not really Pashinyan's decision, it is imposed by Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Nare. Can you update us on the latest political persecutions in Armenia?
Of course. So the former Gyumri mayor has been detained ahead of elections. He is a current candidate to the mayor of Gyumri. The elections will be held in just a few weeks. So Vartan Ghukasyan and his bodyguard have been detained. This is an ongoing trend of Pashinyan's regime raising the cost of opposition, raising the cost of new candidates coming into the game, and having political ambitions. And in parallel to this, the opposition figure and the former ambassador to Poland, Edgar Ghazaryan, he has also been detained and faces up to 5 years in prison. He is a vocal critic of the Pashinyan regime, and he is very loud in the media. He always criticizes these false narratives that Pashinyan regime creates. And he has been put under administrative arrest, and there are real concerns about how legal and transparent these repressions, these arrests are, because this seems to be just another wave of repressions ahead of the elections, one in Gyumri and the other one in Yerevan, projected to be in 2026.
Thank you very much, Nare. Anything new regarding their protests in Yerevan?
Yes, the lawyers have been on the strike for a long time, and 31 opposition MPs have submitted a request to the Constitutional Court to check if this tax reform is constitutional, and the Constitutional Court, taking into account the pressures from this lawyer strike, will have to review this tax changes to be made.
Hairenik media correspondent in Armenia, Nare Navasartian. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Former Artsakh State Minister Ruben Vardanyan has begun a hunger strike to protest his staged trial in Azerbaijan. Held hostage since September 27, 2023, Vardanyan faces 42 charges, including terrorism, in a sham trial taking place in Baku. His case has been riddled with legal violations, including a military tribunal instead of a civilian court, denied access to case files, and blocked legal defense. His international legal team is barred and no defense witnesses are allowed. Vardanyan calls this a political performance and urges world leaders to intervene, warning that silence fuels hostility and injustice. The EU civilian monitoring mission in Armenia has officially begun under a new mandate. In a statement, the mission reaffirmed its commitment to regional peace and stability and will continue patrolling the Armenia-Azerbaijan border until 2027. Artsakh President Samvel Shahramanyan has signed a decree extending the National Assembly's powers, citing a constitutional ban on elections during a state of emergency. This indefinitely postpones the May 2025 parliamentary elections. Without this extension, new elections would have been required or the assembly dissolved, a move that aligns with Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev's demands. Acting Speaker Gagik Bahuns confirmed the cancellation while noting possible party list changes and emphasizing the role of civil society in the political process. Marking the 37th anniversary of the Artsakh movement, the National Assembly of Artsakh issued a statement reaffirming the Armenian people's right to return to their homeland. The assembly condemned Azerbaijan's ongoing occupation and emphasized the internationally recognized right of displaced Artsakh Armenians to return with dignity. The statement recalls decades of struggle and the resilience of the Armenian spirit. In Iran, Azerbaijani Prime Minister Ali Asadov met with Iranian First Vice President Mohammad Reza Arefi to discuss trade, investment, transport, energy, and humanitarian affairs. They also reviewed key infrastructure projects, including the Eastern Zangezur-Nakhichevan Transport Corridor and the North to South Corridor. Baku continues to push for a customs-free route through Armenia to Nakhichevan, while Yerevan insists on maintaining sovereignty. Aliyev has criticized Armenia's stance pushing for an alternative route through Iran. Tehran, however, opposes the Zangezur corridor, with Iranian officials expressing support for Armenia's position. Turkish ambassador to Azerbaijan Birol Akgun stated that the final peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia is beneficial not only for the region, but also to the entire world. He also affirmed that Ankara will continue to strengthen friendly and brotherly ties with Baku, and that their cooperation is of strategic nature. Yerevan and Baku have yet to agree on 2 points in the future peace treaty: renouncing claims against each other in international courts and the presence of third-party forces on the border. A striking protest projection appeared near the Armenian Community Church in Berlin, displaying a message in Armenian: 1988, Pashinyan has betrayed the memory of Armenians. The projection, featuring a forget-me-not flower, references the start of the Artsakh movement and criticizes Pashinyan's recent political maneuvers. It is worth mentioning that during his visit to Munich, official Armenian organizations did not attend Pashinyan's meeting with members of the German Armenian community, expressing the community's rage about his questioning of the Armenian genocide. Social media in Abkhazia has been flooded with an anti-Armenian rhetoric and claims that Armenians voted for pro-Russian candidate Badr Gunba. A leaked recording revealed calls for measures against Armenians in the second round of elections. The Armenian community has appealed for protection. In news on the Armenian community in the Middle East, religious leaders are condemning an unjust foreclosure attempt by the Jerusalem municipality against the Armenian Patriarchate of Jerusalem. The municipality claims the Patriarchate owes a municipal tax debt from 1994, but church officials argue the debt was imposed arbitrarily. The municipality is set to tax, seize, and auction off properties that have been owned for centuries by Jerusalem's Armenian Patriarchate. The Patriarchate has accused Israeli authorities of levying unfair, targeted, and dirty taxes against the religious organization aimed at reducing the church's presence in the Holy Land. If the seizure proceeds, it could set a dangerous precedent for other Christian religious institutions in Israel. The Armenian Patriarch of Jerusalem, Archbishop Nurhan Manukyan, has sent an urgent letter to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calling for immediate government intervention to halt the unjust actions. This illegal action represents a direct threat to the survival of the 1,700-plus-year-old Armenian Christian quarter and all the diverse faith-based communities of the Holy Land, the Armenian National Committee of America commented. The patriarchs and heads of local churches of Jerusalem issued a statement affirming its steadfast solidarity with the Armenian Patriarchate and its pursuit of justice against an unjust foreclosure order. In a joint statement, the Armenian community of Jerusalem stood united in opposition to the municipality's unilateral actions against the Armenian Patriarchate, calling for the establishment of a joint committee comprised of representatives from the Patriarchate, the community, and the diaspora to navigate these critical times together. The World Council of Churches described the Jerusalem Municipalities Act as a blatant attack on religious freedom and an alarming violation of the historic status quo that governs the holy sites of Jerusalem. His Holiness Catholicos Aram I of the Great House of Cilicia sent a congratulatory letter to Syria's President Ahmed al-Shara, expressing hope for a new and promising chapter in the country's history under the president's leadership. Recognizing the challenges faced by the Syrian people, Aram I emphasized the importance of justice and equality for all citizens, hoping that the rights of all Syrians will be respected without discrimination. This month marks 31 years since the final phase of the Battle of Omar Pass, a pivotal operation in the Artsakh War. In February 1994, Armenian forces launched a counterattack in harsh winter conditions, ultimately securing victory over Azerbaijani troops. The battle was a defining moment, leading to the liberation of Karvachar. Eternal glory to those who fought and sacrificed for Armenia's defense. February 19 marked 21 years since the brutal murder of Armenian Lieutenant Gurgen Margaryan. In 2004, Margaryan was attacked in his sleep with an axe by an Azerbaijani officer, Ramil Safarov, during a NATO training program. Safarov was sentenced to a life in prison in Hungary, but was later extradited to Azerbaijan, pardoned and celebrated as a national hero. The case remains a symbol of injustice, though Armenia and Hungary restored diplomatic ties in 2022. That's all for tonight's newscast. Thank you for tuning in. For more updates, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X. Good night.